Hey guys, Steve here to my dice, and how's it going? It is another Monday, and here I am with another video as promised. So this time we're going to be looking at the new info, and if you notice, before that, hands-free, that's right, I got a new video rig that includes lighting and a nice microphone, so it's going to be a little bit nicer now. To get to what we were talking about, we are looking at Warhammer The Old World. We've had an update a little while ago from Games Workshop about this new old edition of the Warhammer Fantasy game. It's something they mentioned, I think, last year, late 2019, early 2020. There's been a few updates. Well, we know it's going to be set in the old world before all the bad stuff of the end times happened, before the chaos incursions. It's about 200 years before all the end time stuff. We've seen stuff about Kislev, which is one of the armies. I should say Armies is one of the regions owned by men. Picture Russians on polar bears. That's pretty much Kislev. Now, for those of you guys who jumped in the fantasy version of Warhammer with Age of Sigmar, you don't know what the Old World is. It was the original version, I should say, of Warhammer fantasy battles. It was orcs, elves, dwarves, humans. Chaos had its warriors there. There were vampires and mummies and ogres and dragons. It was your basic, fantasy fare. It was a lot different now. I have an example here. It's a poor example, I apologize. But this is what it used to look like, right? Lots of ranked troops. A little hero there. I got Vultan and Old Metal Vultan. These guys I found in my bits box. I've had them for years and years and years. These are back in like 5th or 6th edition, I think, of the fantasy game. It was a lot different than it is now. Everything's on square bases. Movement is a lot different. You're constantly pivoting and moving these large units, ranked troops. But it was a much different game than it is now. It was very, very popular. The last couple editions saw that popularity dwindle a bit, and that's kind of why they rebooted and did the Age of Sigmar. They revitalized the fantasy genre they had going on. So it's really, really exciting to see this coming back. And I know there's going to be a lot of fans of the old game that are pretty happy that we're getting back to the square bases and the ranked troops. And I mean, there's so much cool stuff there, and it's sad to see a lot of armies sitting in shelves or in storage boxes now, because they're just not being used. And frankly, there's so many amazing models we're just not seeing now. Now, all the new stuff is really, really cool, but this old stuff had its own charm. So to get back to where it was, basically it's set 200 years before the end times, before everything was destroyed. So the armies are going to be a bit different, I think. Basically, Kislev, which is this northern territory, is going to be much bigger. We've already seen some stuff as well about the Empire, so all the normal princes there with their different Taliban, but all the different places, Altdorf, Mindenheim, all these different places, right? We've also seen some in Bretonia, which was, if you don't know what that is basically questing knights, French questing knights, all the livery, bowmen, trebuchets, basically crusade style of warfare. The Empire is more 16th, 17th century Germanic, lots of cannons, gunfire, different, right? It's a bit more advanced. They have emperors and councils and all that stuff, lots of wizards, whereas Bretonia has got, like I said, lots of knights, questing knights, knights on Pegasus, damsels casting their spells, ladies in the lake, and a lot of Arthurian legend in there too. We haven't seen much in the way of what the models are going to look like. We have seen a lot of new Kislev stuff. Obviously, that's going to be probably the main armies. If there is a starter set, Kislev will be there. We've already seen some production design, so it looks like pretty cool. Now, what this update brings us, though, is some of the basic questions that people have been asking about the game, and so we're going to dive into that right now. I've got it loaded here. So these are what they call hints of things to come. So the big one that everybody asked, bases square around, and says definitely square. Warhammer The Old World is a reinvention of the classic rank-and-file game of Warhammer Fantasy Battles. Regiments move in ranked-up units with strategic maneuvering into position to launch or receive a critical charge. Will be as much a key part of the game as ever was, and that was a big thing. You couldn't just move where you wanted to. Your units had to pivot and then move a certain distance. You want to set. You always had to think a few steps ahead of where you wanted your unit to be, because you don't want to charge in with a group of knights and hit a unit, destroy it, only to get smashed yourself in the flank, right? Scale, 10 millimeter or 15 millimeter. It says, what? No, what madness is that? The scale remained the same as ever it was. We want people to be able to use their old armies, that's a big point, if they wish, or start new ones, or to add new miniatures to old armies, whatever they want. Now this is one of the big ones, because this is going to allow people to get those armies out of the storages, off the shelves, and actually play with them again. So it's instant armies. You're not having to wait for new models to come out. You just go and play again, which is going to be really nice. I mean, I'm actually tempted to paint these guys up and maybe restart a small empire army. I have some characters buried away somewhere I can pull out and get these guys done up and make them look nice. Rules, totally new or 8th edition? I said both. We played every single edition of Warhammer Fantasy battles over the years, and like every player, we have our favorite bits from each. Warhammer The Old World will gather up all our favorite mechanics from the 3rd to the 8th edition, and add new elements where needed, create something deeply familiar yet freshly new. So the first two for those fluff buffs and the history buffs of Warhammer, the first 2 editions of Warhammer Fantasy Battle were more like a role-playing game, right? You created your characters. It wasn't until 3rd that it became more of an army game, right? So that's cool. So there was a lot to like in every edition. There was a lot to dislike in some editions. So hopefully they're going to be able to bring all those elements together and make a really nice, tight game that allows everyone to have fun and play. I mean, one of the frustrating things for me back in the day when I was playing War is that you could lose in deployment. If you didn't deploy right, you were never going to win the game. It didn't matter. You could have luck, maybe, if your opponent made mistakes, but more likely not, if you failed in deployment, you were done, which kind of sucked. It wasn't very nice. Factions, orcs or aurochs, and they say the boys was called orcs in the old world, so that's what they called. Good answer. What I like about that is we're going to see the old units. We'll see dwarves, not dwarven. We're going to see high elves, wood elves, dark elves. We're going to see, orcs, not aurochs. We're going to see orcs and goblins, chaos, skaven, vampires. The von Karsteins are probably still going to be in there, hopefully. The Tomb Kings, ogres. I think I already said ogres. Whatever. It'll be the original armies. Who knows what we'll see in there? What characters we'll see? Probably some of them like Teclis and Tyrion and Morathi, Lord Croak, the von Karsteins probably, maybe even some Chaos characters. Who knows? They might still be around. Thorgrim Grudgebearer, the dwarf king. You could see a young version of him. You could see an early version of him being king. But it's cool. It's gonna be dwarves, not dwarven. It's gonna be all the old style stuff, right? Which is very cool for those of you who like the game. They say one more time, bases. Are you sure they're going to be square? Yes, we're positive. So square bases, like this little dude here, a nice square base, which I think some people are going to love. I know when I was working at Games Workshop, when they did the end times, we had a lot of the older guys, the veteran players, who were upset that it was going around bases. They didn't want that. They liked the army the way it was. So hopefully this will get them back in. I know some of them stopped playing, which is sad. Let's talk about the setting. What about the world's ending? Keen observers will have gleaned now that Warhammer The Old World is going to be set several hundred years before the end times. So there's plenty of space to explore the history of the setting. Especially knowledgeable students may note this puts just before the calamitous chaos invasion, and one which, while central to the story of the Empire and the entire world, was barely touched on in previous iterations. So we're going to see a world before the big chaos battles, right? So chaos will probably still be there. It's always been there. You just won't be this unending tide of evil streaming down from the north. It'll be maybe just different armies, maybe not as powerful magic, who knows, right? The end times ramped up everything when that came out. And then the release date, this is a big one. It is not going to be coming out anytime soon. For what they say here, it's going to be quite some time yet. Basically, they're trying to make it the best game they can. So hopefully, maybe next year, the year after, we'll see this game come out. Plenty of time to get your armies repainted or rebuilt, or pull them out of off your shelves, dust them off, and maybe we'll see something sooner than later. Hopefully. But yeah, that's it, guys. I just want to go through some of that news. I was never a big fantasy player myself. I've only just slightly dabbled in Age of Sigmar, but I miss the old fantasy days. There's something cool about having just these massed ranks. And I had an old Empire army, which I don't know what happened to it. I think I gave it away or sold it or something like that. But it's getting me excited to maybe try diving in again and playing it. And that's what it's all about, having fun and you know, getting amped up by something like this. So I'm looking forward to seeing what comes out, to see what armies decide. Kislev versus Chaos, Kislev versus Orcs and Goblins, or who knows, right? I do have a feeling that Kislev is going to be a major part of the launch. As always, guys, I hope you enjoyed it. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you guys next Monday. I'll see you there.